So, what if I told you the entire global economy is built on a paradox? I mean, think about it. Every major country on Earth is in debt. We're talking the United States, Japan, China, all of Europe. But if everyone owes money, who exactly is everyone indebted to? Right now, the world is practically swimming in over $315 trillion of debt. That number is so huge, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. It's almost 3 times the size of the entire global economy. This debt is like the invisible architecture holding up our modern world. And this brings us to the big mystery we're going to solve today. If you follow this massive chain of IOUs, who's actually at the end of the line? You know, who holds the ultimate credit card bill for planet Earth? Well, the answer is probably not what you're thinking. To really get this paradox, we have to go back in time a bit, because the whole idea of a country being in debt wasn't cooked up on Wall Street. Nope, it was actually born on the battlefield. It all kicked off back in 1694. England was fighting a war with France and was running out of cash. So the king strikes the deal with a bunch of merchants. You guys finance the war for us, and in return, we'll give you a permanent stream of interest payments, all backed by future taxes. And just like that, the first ever government bond was created, an official IOU from a country that you could buy and sell. And this changed everything. All of a sudden, debt wasn't a sign of failure. It actually became a sign of credibility. All right, to find our first big clue in this mystery, let's zoom in on the biggest debtor in the world, the United States. The U.S. owes a mind-boggling $38 trillion. Now, the story you usually hear is that it's all owed to other countries, right? But who does America really owe all that money to? Okay, so check this out. This is the breakdown of who holds all that public debt. And here is the first big twist. About 2/3 of it is held by Americans. Yeah, you heard me right. American banks, pension funds, insurance companies, even the Federal Reserve itself. The majority of America's debt is owed to America. And what about that other third, the part held by foreign investors? Well, the top holder is actually Japan. And China? You know, despite all the headlines, China holds only about 2% of the total U.S. debt. So you start to see this weird circular logic, don't you? American taxpayers fund the interest payments on government bonds, and that money flows right back into the pension funds and retirement accounts that those same Americans are depending on. The debt is absolutely real, but the creditor is, well, it's largely just a reflection of the system itself. Now, this whole circular thing, it doesn't just apply to the US, oh no. It applies to the entire planet. I love this quote from our source material because it just perfectly captures the global financial system. It's like a planetary game of hot potato, but the potato is made of promises. I mean, just look at how interconnected this whole thing is. Japan buys US bonds because they're safe. The US helps fund the IMF, which then lends money to European nations. Europe helps fund the World Bank, which lends to developing nations. And what do those nations do with their extra cash? They buy US bonds for safety. It's a completely closed loop where everyone owns a piece of everyone else's promise. So now we get to the core secret of the modern financial system. And I'm telling you, it's not what you think. This is probably going to change the way you think about debt forever. For you and me, right, debt is something you have to repay. Our goal is to get that balance down to zero. But for governments, they think of it more like a subscription service, one that just gets renewed over and over and over and over again. This right here is the absolute key to the entire puzzle. Governments don't actually plan to pay off their debt, ever. When the old bonds are due, they simply issue new bonds to pay off the old ones. The plan was never to repay it. The plan is to just roll it over, forever. So you might be asking, well, why not just pay it all off? Because government bonds, especially U.S. Treasury bonds, are seen as the safest financial asset on the planet. They are the bedrock, the foundation of the entire global financial system. If they were all suddenly paid off, that foundation would just disappear, and the whole system would very likely collapse. Okay, so if the debt is never actually paid back, who really pays for it? This is where it starts to get personal for all of us. See, those endless interest payments have to come from somewhere. And they come from us, the taxpayers, from the productive economy. And where does all that money go? It flows upward to the institutions, the funds, and the wealthy investors who own all the debt. This whole mechanism acts as a massive continuous transfer of wealth. And it's a huge reason why global debt and global wealth inequality have been rising together in lockstep for decades.
So, in the end, who is the creditor? Well, it's not one country or one big bank. It's the system itself. And the whole thing is built on a single, kind of fragile ingredient.
This entire $315 trillion structure is built purely on confidence. As long as everybody believes that governments are going to keep making their interest payments, the machine just keeps on turning. The line between who's a debtor and who's a creditor has been completely blurred into a circle. The system works because we all believe it works. But the real question is, what happens if that confidence breaks? What happens when that promise can't be kept?